Have you ever seen a headline and just thought, wait a minute, does that really cause that? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down today. We're going to go on a journey from just seeing a simple connection between two things to proving with some real confidence that one thing truly causes another. So let's dive in.
I mean, you've probably seen a headline almost exactly like this one, right? New study finds a link between social media and anxiety. It sounds plausible, doesn't it? It might even feel true from your own experience. But here's the really important question. Does that link, that pattern we're seeing, automatically prove that one is causing the other?
And that is the big challenge. Spotting a trend is the easy part. The really tough part is proving that if you change A, you are definitely going to get a change in B. So how do scientists build up enough confidence to actually make that claim?
Well, the answer lies in this really cool idea called the ladder of evidence. Just think of it like this. We're going to start on the very bottom rung with the most basic kinds of observations, and we're going to climb our way up, step by step, to the most powerful methods for finding out what's really going on.
Okay, our climb begins right here on the very first rung with something called correlational research. At this level, we're basically detectives. We don't change anything, we don't interfere, we just watch the world as it is and look for clues, for any interesting relationships between things.
So what does that actually look like? Imagine researchers measuring two things. Say, the number of hours someone spends on social media each day and their reported level of anxiety. The key thing to remember here is that the researchers are totally hands-off. They are just observing, measuring, and recording what they find, kind of like a detective gathering clues at a crime scene.
And these observations usually reveal a couple of different kinds of patterns. On the left, you've got a positive correlation. When one thing goes up, the other tends to go up too. A super simple example is height and weight. Taller people tend to weigh more. Then on the right, we have a negative correlation. When one thing increases, the other one decreases. For instance, as school absences go up, grades tend to go down. It's all about which way the relationship is headed.
Okay, so we've spotted a pattern. Great! But this brings us to what is, without a doubt, the single most important rule in all of research, and it's the next step up our ladder.
If you only remember one single thing from this entire explainer, please make it this sentence right here. Correlation does not imply causation. Just because two things seem to happen together, it absolutely does not mean one is causing the other. You should think of this as a giant warning label on any study that's only looking at correlations. So why is that, you ask? Well, for one, it could just be a total coincidence. But way more often, there's a sneaky third factor hiding in the background, what researchers call a confounding variable. Let me give you a classic example. Ice cream sales are highly correlated with shark attacks. Does that mean eating ice cream causes shark attacks? No, of course not. The hidden factor, the confounding variable, is hot weather. Hot weather makes more people buy ice cream, and it makes more people go swimming, which leads to more shark encounters. The weather is the real cause, not the ice cream.
So, if just watching the world isn't enough to prove that one thing causes another, how in the world do we get closer to the truth? Well, it's time to climb to the next rung on our ladder, where we stop being passive observers and start getting a little more active with our investigation.
This image here just perfectly captures the shift we're making. We're moving along a spectrum, right? From that purely passive observation we just talked about over on the left, towards a much more controlled, hands-on investigation over on the right, where the researcher finally starts to take charge.
This middle ground is where we find the quasi-experiment. Quasi just means sort of, and that's exactly what this is. It's sort of an experiment. Here, researchers will compare groups, like students from two different schools, for instance. But here's the catch. They can't randomly put students into those schools. They have to use the groups that already exist. This is a big step up from just watching, but it's not perfect. Why not? Because we can never be totally sure those two schools were exactly the same to begin with. And that brings us all the way to the top of the ladder. If you really truly want to prove cause and effect, you need what everyone calls the gold standard of research, the true experiment. So, what's the secret recipe for a true experiment? Well, there are three absolutely essential ingredients. First, manipulation. The researcher has to actively change one thing. Second, you need a control group, another group that gets nothing changed, which gives us a baseline to compare against. But the third ingredient, this one is the game changer. It's the magic ingredient, random assignment. And this chart just lays it all out, crystal clear. Just look at that bottom row. The single biggest difference between a pretty good quasi-experiment and the gold standard true experiment is random assignment. By randomly sorting people into the different groups, researchers can basically wash away all the other pre-existing differences between them. It helps ensure the only real difference is the one thing they're testing. This is what gives them the power to finally, confidently, claim causation.
Okay, we've climbed the whole ladder. Now, let's put together a toolkit that you can use to check out any study you read about. When you see a new claim in the news, how can you judge the evidence for yourself? Well, it really all comes down to asking two key questions.
The first tool in your kit is called internal validity. The easiest way to think about this is just asking, was the study well designed? Was it a fair test? A true experiment with random assignment has really high internal validity because it's built to be strong and fair, and it eliminates as many other explanations as possible. It's kind of like checking to see if a house was built on a solid foundation.
And the second tool is external validity. This one is all about the real world. You're asking, okay, the results from this specific study, do they actually apply to the rest of us out here? A finding from a lab full of college students might not mean a thing for older adults living their normal lives. For a study to be really meaningful, you need both that solid foundation, the internal validity, and a connection to the real world, the external validity.
So we'll leave you with this. The next time you see that headline that says X is linked to Y, what's the very first question you're going to ask yourself? Are you just going to accept that link at face value? Or are you going to stop and ask, wait, was this just an observation? Or was it a true experiment? By just asking that one simple question, you're already thinking like a scientist and becoming a much, much smarter reader of the world around you.